Would you pray with me a moment? O Lord, open my lips that my mouth might show forth your praise. And may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight. O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. A number of things went very wrong with Western Christianity. And by wrong, I mean became something other than was intended. And by intended, I mean what we read in the Torah and the prophets and Jesus and Paul. And one of these wrong turns is the time when lessons like this morning were taught as a supernatural God coming into the world, as in a God outside of nature. The story of the burning bush, of Jesus walking on the water, of Moses and Elijah, who'd been dead a long time, showing up on a mountain, of voices out of clouds, of this God who's somehow not here, showing up, and then miraculously inserting God's self into the human experience. Because as modern people, we translate miraculous as unbelievable. Because we know that we are natural creatures living in a natural world. And yet, that's so far from what was intended. I mean, Jesus, God with us as one of us, is the ultimate affirmation that God is not far away, but with us. And this is one of God's primary intentions, we believe. But what happened was when the Romans and the Germanic peoples took over Christianity, they brought this opposition to our faith, an opposition between civilization and culture and order and rational thinking on the one hand, and nature, barbarism, chaos, and emotional feelings on the other. And they squeezed God into civilization, culture, order, and rational thinking. But that left a lot of God on the cutting room floor. Because that's not the God we meet in the Bible. I mean, have you ever asked yourself, why would God create a place and everything and everyone in it and be vastly pleased with it and then put it in a box and never open the box and play with it and enjoy it? It makes no sense. God is beyond nature as creator, but God is also intranatural, as in a recreator, recreating, totally infusing the natural world, moving over the waters, making herself known in the things of this world. And we see that in the stories this morning, on a sea, on a mountain, in a desert, in a bush. Now, the Celtic Christians, who were never Germanized or Romanized, called these places where they would meet God thin places, where heaven and earth opened to each other. And so when I was thinking about how I was going to talk about thin places, I took a shot and I said, I'm going to talk about fly fishing this morning. Because fly fishing for me is a practice of thin places. And when I was thinking about fishing and what it does to my soul, I realized that it is a description of what thin places are like. I mean, it's all well and good to talk about heaven and earth opening to each other. But how would we possibly know that that's what we're seeing when we're seeing it? Because, we're not all Moses here who knew how to stop and look and listen. Most of us rush on by. So I'm not going to talk about a specific place because I'm a fisherman, so I'm not going to give my spots away. But I'm going to talk about the qualities of thin places. And my hope in doing this is not to talk about fishing, but that what I say may click with you and you'll go, hey, I know exactly what he's talking about. That's what happens in my garden or at the beach or in the mountains or on my bicycle. And I want to start with 3 places: heaven, earth, and hell. And rather than think of them as places, think of them as human experiences. And think to yourself that we can actually move ourselves from one to the other. And I want to start with hell on earth. And it occurs to me that the experience of thought, the experience of being dominated by our mind's thinking, when our minds are running with lists and plans and worries and awfulizations and regrets and desires, which is what most of our minds do most of the time, we would find it exhausting, but we're so used to it. Hell on earth, to have your mind going like that. Now, when I am fly fishing, my mind is not talking to me at all about anything of that stuff. It's like a switch has been switched off. I am only thinking about what is exactly in front of me, the exact situation. And I have discovered over a lifetime of fly fishing that I can fish for an entire day, and at the end, when I get in the car and turn it on, I discover that I haven't had a thought beyond the present moment for 10 hours, except maybe time for lunch. Now that is heaven on earth. To be only living in the here and the now. The quality of your mind. Heaven, earth, and hell. Another hell category. Time. There's never enough. And sometimes time seems less precious, less or more worthless, because we're not enjoying our time, whatever we're doing. We rush through time trying to accomplish something, and maybe they're tasks that we really don't want to do, or they might seem meaningless to us. So the time that we spend doing that seems less precious. Even throwaway time, people tell me. Imagine that. Because all the time, all of us know that at some point, our time is up. And that makes all of us wonder at one time or another, what's the point of the time I put into this or that? That's hell on earth. Rushing through life to get things done that you don't really think are worthwhile. Now, on the other hand, when I'm fly fishing, I have discovered that time does not rush at all. Time becomes pregnant with possibility. What's going to happen this time? Is it this cast? Is it the next cast? And through that all are interspersed moments of great joy and satisfaction. And I'm not rushing around at all, but I'm totally happy in the present moment doing what I'm doing. If anyone were to ask me what I'm doing, I'm saying I'm just going to do this until it starts to get dark or I get hungry. And I've discovered also that whether I catch anything or not, I always feel while I'm doing it, I'm having a great time. I'm glad I came. That's heaven on earth. Heaven, earth, and hell. Here's another one. Utility. We live in a world where everything and everyone, we are told, is a commodity. You, it, us, them are either valued and useful or not valued and useless. And we see the effects all around us. We have created a throwaway world. A world full of landfills, of oceans filled with plastic, of fish stocks wiped out, of oil spills that can't be cleaned, of forests clear-cut, of strip mines, of polluted rivers and oceans, and we ourselves live lives of addiction. Addicted to noise, addicted to work, addicted to loneliness, where we live isolated in front of our screens and not in relationship with one another. Hell on earth. Now, I don't fish often for food. There is no utility in what I do. It is a totally purposeless activity except for one thing: the beauty. The beauty of the places it takes me, the beauty of the fish. Now, you could argue that in the catching of the fish, I am hurting them, and that's a long sermon to describe why I do what I do. But I hold them for the briefest moment, and I marvel at their beauty, and I let them go. There's the beauty of a well-cast cast. There's the pleasure in the application of a skill. Heaven on earth. Beauty just for the sake of beauty. And one last one. Heaven, earth, and hell. Hell on earth. Facts. Facts and certainty. Of course, we want to base our lives and our decisions on facts and truth, but any one of us knows that today's facts often turn out to be the future's historical footnotes. And yet, we go through lives nailing down our facts, which allow our facts to blind us to other possibilities of what also might be true. And we get very angry and argue with people who don't agree with our facts. In fact, we damn them for not believing in our facts. Hell on earth, caught up in this world of facts and opinions and ideas. Now, when I'm fishing, I start out with facts and theories, like this ought to work. And it ought to work for this, that, or the other reason, like I read it in this guy's book, or I saw it on YouTube, or I actually fished here a week ago and it did work. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it works, but not according to the facts and theories that it ought to work for. And sometimes I discover that I'm just standing there wiping mosquitoes off of my neck and discover that there's a fish on the end of my line for no good reason at all. In short, fishing always remains an elusive mystery. Some things go my way, sometimes they don't. And what I've discovered after all these years is that I have a deep satisfaction in both. When it goes my way and I feel like somehow I've slipped myself inside the mystery. And then when it doesn't, the joy of being humbled. Because again, I am reassured that God is God and I am not. Or the fish is the fish and I am not. That there is, in fact, no matter how good I get at this, more wonder and beauty and time and these moments out there to be had. Because it was never about certainty and mastery, but about presence and participation. Heaven on earth. It's like church. Why do we do it? So on this Earth Day Sunday, I want to remind you, the world is awash with thin places. Places where presence and time and beauty and mystery just burst out at us. I know you have them. I have many, and they're not all to do with fishing. It's what in the Bible is called apocalypse, which doesn't mean disaster. It means the unveiling, where the glory of God is unveiled. And when we are unveiled as who we really are, children of God. And so in this 21st century, where the news of our human destruction is so evident to us, and these places disappear, or these thin places are commodified and sold off for money. Ultimately, my friends, windows into heaven are gone. And in the going away, we destroy ourselves too. So I offer you these thoughts about thin places because once you learn to recognize the way you are in one of them, I've discovered that you can find them anywhere. Heaven is right here on earth. And the only thing standing between heaven and hell is the quality of ourselves that we bring to the place. Our mind, our purpose, our intention to wherever we are here on earth. And for that I say thanks be to God. Amen.